Hello and welcome to Speak for Yourself. I'm your host, Jason Whitlock. Colin Cowherd is out on vacation today. Despite that, we still have a great show planned for you today. Today we'll talk Jimmy Garoppolo making Gisele Bundchen's Tom Brady retirement dreams come true, and a huge mistake that Roger Goodell just keeps on making. But we begin the show in Dallas, where the Cowboys season was just thrown into utter chaos by the news that Roger Goodell has suspended star running back Zeke Elliott 6 games for repeated violations of the league's personal conduct policy. Elliott was the subject of a 6-week police investigation involving domestic violence of his then-girlfriend. The police and prosecutors declined to press charges in that case, but the NFL has looked deeper into the case and concluded, quote, there is substantial and persuasive evidence supporting a finding that Elliott engaged in physical violence against Ms. Thompson on multiple occasions during the week of July 16, 2016. Elliott's representatives released a statement laying out the basis for Elliott's appeal, writing, quote, the NFL findings are replete with factual inaccuracies and erroneous conclusions, and it cherry-picks so-called evidence to support its conclusion while ignoring other critical evidence. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones has steadfastly defended Elliott and proclaimed the running back's innocence while acknowledging his need to mature. Personally, I don't like this. The police and prosecutors declined to press charges, but now the NFL is acting as judge and jury. This seems dangerous and unfair and will soon lead to people comparing this case to how the NFL handled Giants kicker Josh Brown, who was suspended for just 1 game after being arrested for domestic violence against his wife. All right, for more on this topic, bring in Mark Schlereth, Doug Gottlieb, Eric Davis. Again, I get that the NFL needs to make a stand against domestic violence. I get that Ezekiel Elliott has had problems, and there does seem to be circumstantial evidence or evidence pointing that he had a problem here. But when the police don't charge and you're a 6-game suspension and the police don't charge, and Josh Brown confessed to beating his wife, 1-game suspension, I just think this is a dangerous precedent.
See, I'm looking at what happens if you do your due diligence. This is the thing, if the NFL, because remember, this is not the court of law or anything like that. If you do your due diligence, and they're saying that they did their due diligence, I talked to some people today that said there's medical evidence, that there's DNA evidence. So if you did all that work, regardless of what the police are saying, if you're truly talking about getting this out of the league, I personally don't have a problem with it. I really don't. If you did the work. If you're saying this person hurt someone, you're supposed to deal with the suspension. Now, the Brown issue, that's a different thing. I don't think they did enough of that situation.
Well, I think the Brown issue, one, as you read it, the report was he grabbed her wrists, and he got a 1-game suspension. I don't know what the totality of that was. He later on, after he was out of the league in counseling, wrote a letter essentially to her, as I recall, basically admitting that he performed or he had 20 different separate cases of domestic violence, but he was already out of the league at that point when that information came to light. Whether they did their due diligence or not, the NFL has been given ultimate authority in Article 46 to essentially do whatever the heck they want when it comes to suspending guys, and they've said this 6-game precedent is where they want to start. I happen to believe, though, this is a Lifetime Achievement Award. Since 2014, you look at the Dallas Cowboys, they have had 15 guys suspended for a total of 100 games. Right? The next closest is the Ravens for 55 games.
But this has nothing to do with that, though.
I understand that.
And you can't punish a player because of what the organization has done.
They do with Tom Brady.
Tom Brady was suspended because of what happened.
No.
But I think
most people believe their point that Brady got it bad because of the
Lifetime Achievement
Award.
No, Brady got it bad because Brady just didn't admit to messing with the balls.
There's really no evidence of him messing with. It was the self. Let's not retry the Brady case. Okay? Let's deal with this one. There is precedent for a guy being suspended without any criminal charge. We saw with Big Ben Roethlisberger, right?
Yeah.
He got a lengthy suspension for the sexual assault.
6 that went down to 4.
Right, but remember, and that was before, again, we have to have the context of the time. Like, people look back and say Ray Rice suspended only 2 games, which was not a long enough suspension. But at the time, that was the longest suspension in the history of the league for domestic violence.
And there was no rule on the books as to how you were going to suspend.
Right. And
now
so,
6 games is on the books.
And so that's really kind of my point, to which I get, Jason, that it's a dangerous precedent, but that precedent for suspending a guy without criminal charges has already been set.
Yes.
And the 6 games, like, don't we remember the Ray Rice thing? It was a public relations disaster.
Yes.
And so now the Cowboys are like, now the Cowboys are like, wait, this is not fair. Like, hey, we told you 6 games domestic violence, and then and if you read the letter that they wrote him, they said, like, look, there's this, and there's also the St. Patrick's Day Parade. There's also some other stuff like, hey, dude, you're not helping yourself in terms of us believing that you're an angel.
And that is something
really
else.
Really glad you made the point about Ben Roethlisberger. I had not thought about that all day today. I think that does add a bit of clarity to this and a defense for Roger Goodell. Again, the only thing I'll say, they're going to dispute this vigorously, it appears, Zeke Elliott and his people.
Sure.
And I just think, again, when you start talking about black guys public relations-wise, this thing is going to spin because going back to Josh Brown, because what people are going to argue is, well, where was the year-long investigation into Josh Brown?
Yeah, because of the
you did a year-long investigation on Ezekiel Elliott, but not one on Josh Brown.
Right. Because he was, I think, because he was out of the league. But that's I mean, it's
a
fair point.
It was before he was out of the league, and he was out of the league because his wife released that information that was to his psychologist.
Remember, because the owner supported him at first, and then when the information was like complete, did the 180. But you're right about just the totality of what the NFL is saying in that letter. Like, hey, dude, and I said this on Colin Cowherd show today that you hosted, if everywhere you go it smells like a turd, you better check your own drawers. And that's what they're saying to Zeke Elliott. Like, man,
exactly.
you got to quit. You got to quit
That's
with
part
this.
of it, and that's what I'm saying. That's part of it. You get to a point, and that's the issue is him having to prove that this didn't happen. So that's the thing. Whether it's the court of law or whatever, if they did their due diligence and they're saying it looks like you did this, it smells, okay, you have to prove that you're not the one making the stink.
Another layer to this, though, I'm going to go back to Mark's point about how he's getting punished for years of Cowboys problems. I think, and again, I've been a big Jerry Jones defender, he completely mishandled this. By being out in front of this, Zeke did nothing wrong. I totally believe there's going to be no suspension. Everybody in their locker room basically on that message. I'm not sure if that played real well with Roger Goodell and the league and the people doing the investigation.
You think? And plus, remember, isn't this the guy that hired Greg Hardy, fresh off of his suspension, being on the commissioner's exemption list when he was in Carolina? It's the same guy. And then, steadfastly, even going back to at the Hall of Fame, asked about it. There's, no evidence, whatever. Like, there was a tone deafness to it. Like, you can believe your guy. You can believe that the evidence that you've seen, you stand by Ezekiel Elliott. But there was a tone deafness to how we are changing and evolving on our views on domestic violence and how we handle that within professional leagues. I still think there needs to be an evolution in how we handle it in the criminal justice system. The fact is that even the Ray Rice thing, right? Like, he didn't serve a second of time. It's a pretrial diversionary hearing. When you see that video, you're like, nothing? You get nothing for that? So I think it's a lot like when you fight the NCAA, right? Like when USC got punished doubly so, one, because people thought they'd been doing some stuff with, previously, but also because they were, no, none of this happened. We completely deny it. And the NCAA hammers you. That's what organizations do. Right. When you don't admit to some level of fault, they will hammer you. And then the last thing is, you mentioned the Cowboys. This is not just being punished for past failures of the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. This is for all the players of the NFL. They're making a statement. He is a signature player for the Cowboys, for the league.
I don't think it's that deep.
You don't?
No, I think this is really, right now, there is a rule on the books. It's just like if a guy gets a DUI, okay? You get that DUI, you can go in and you can fight it and you can get it dropped and all these things, but the league is going to suspend you for a certain amount of games. You're going into the program because it's a separate set of rules. There is a rule on the books now. This has nothing to do with all of Dallas.
But there is also a message here, though, I think Doug's talking about in terms of, I think most people believe Greg Hardy cut a check and got his accuser to back off.
Yes.
Cutting a check is no longer effective against it may work in criminal court, but it won't stop you in the NFL.
That's my point, and that's why I'm saying I don't think that this is a dangerous precedent. It's like if we believe that you are breaking the rules, you're breaking the rules.
One person, one individual, that much power. That's what I think is a dangerous precedent.
But he's using other people. He's not just doing it on his own.
They've had that power, or the commissioner's office has had that power forever.
All right.
We've empowered them as players. The owners have empowered them to do it.
Right.
Let's, for a moment, we got more Ezekiel Elliott stuff to talk about. We'll get to it later in the show. But just for a moment, let's deal with the football aspect of this. He's going to miss 6 games. This is the Cowboys, as you see here on the screen, versus the Giants, at Denver, at Arizona, versus the Rams, versus Green Bay, at San Francisco. How devastating is the loss of Ezekiel Elliott on the Cowboys for 6 games this season?
I'm looking at that schedule right there. If he misses those first six games, I see 3-3. With Zeke, I see 3-3. That's where I think they would be.
With Zeke.
With Zeke. And I mean, they have Alfred Morris.
They went 13-3 last year.
Oh, okay, that was last year. No one wins a game from last year. You have to play them this year. And I'm just saying, I'm looking at the record and seeing what's going on. And remember, they have Alfred Morris there.
So you're saying no drop-off at all?
No, well, I mean, I don't think there's going to be a major drop-off.
Well, you said 3-3 with him, 3-3 without him. That'd be no drop-off.
I don't think there's. Well, I'm just talking about just as far as the offense and everything that's happening and the way it's going to play out. I just think Alfred Morris is better than a lot of people think. I mean, this guy was a 1,600-yard guy. Whoever gets behind that offensive line is still capable of running the ball.
So I looked at it like maybe a one-game swing. I think Ezekiel Elliott's one of the best players in the NFL, regardless of position. He's dynamic. He catches the ball well. He does all those things well. I think they drop a little bit. There's a little bit lack of production there because of the running back position. I agree with you. Alfred Morris. I think Darren McFadden could have, a nice couple of games. All those things. I think we don't give enough credit to what Dak Prescott did last year. I think Dak Prescott is legit.
Okay, so I guess we're going to find out because I don't look at this as being the one thing that knocks them off their pedestal, but I think this being kind of the culmination of other things. Remember, David Irving, who had a nice season, kind of a breakthrough season, he's out first 4 games suspended. Randy Gregory suspended for the whole year. Damian Wilson out with an assault. Nolan Carroll is out. They're still working through the offensive line. They lost one of their starters to the Broncos.
Ronald Leary.
Right, Ronald Leary's gone. They're moving La'el Collins over to right tackle, where he's struggling. Right, so, but the point is, and then you lose Ezekiel Elliott, who is your best offensive weapon. Like, Dez Bryant is no longer a top 5 wide receiver.
I disagree with that, but go ahead.
You put more, we go through the top 5 in another list. You put more pressure on a second-year quarterback against a much more difficult schedule. They played the 27th strongest schedule in the NFL. They open up with the Giants, then they go 2 on the road. I think this is the beginning of a very difficult season for the Cowboys. They haven't had back-to-back 10-win seasons since 1996, and this is why. Anytime they have something good, it's followed by guys that step out of line.
Let me jump in here. I'm not going to go the 3-3 deal. I'm not going to talk about the first 6 games. I'm going to talk about the whole 16. This smells like 7-9, 6-10 to me. And because, again, I think this – take the Patriots, and let's don't hop on a Patriots subject, but Brady's suspension galvanized that team, ownership, the entire team rallied around Tom Brady. We've been treated unfairly. I think this suspension isn't going to galvanize the Dallas Cowboys. I think it's going to make them feel sorry for themselves. I think it's going to set off chaos. This is a gut punch they weren't prepared for. Jerry Jones has been preaching to them there will be no suspension. Dez Bryant thought there'd be no suspension. Jason Witten. They just got kicked in the guts by surprise.
But it just depends on how they feel about Zeke. Do they like Zeke or do they not like Zeke? Because if you like Zeke, if he's your guy, then it will be a galvanizing thing. It'll be like, hey, man, you know what? They're against us. They're doing this. Let's roll. If they're like, oh, Zeke, man, you know what? This kid's an idiot.
And see, I actually think it just depends on how the next guy steps up and plays. Because if Alfred Morris does what I think he's going to be able to do, if they put the ball in his belly, then you're still going to be able to get Dak to make the plays. You're still going to get Dez to be able to make the plays because you're going to have to pretty much play the offense the exact same way. They're not going to all of a sudden change things.
I was at the Cowboys camp yesterday. I talked to a couple of the veteran Cowboys, and they said this roster has been turned over substantially the past couple of years. It's a very, very young group. There's not the maturity that they had. Remember, 2 years ago when they had the 4-win season, there was too many injuries. No, they weren't beating anybody. But that book ended double-digit win seasons. But this roster has been turned over, and now you're starting to see the immaturity with things like the other players suspended and Zeke. I'm with you, Jason. I think this does not bode well for the season in its entirety.
Think about who their owner is. And again, I love Jerry Jones. He's not going to handle this well. He is furious. He's going to throw a tantrum. And again, I think the team is going to be a reflection of their leadership. Jerry is. Bill Belichick's the leader of the New England Patriots. He sets a tone with the Patriots. Brady's out, next man up, we're going on. Jerry Jones is the head coach, general manager, president, owner of the Dallas. He is the Dallas Cowboys. We're counting on him to set a tone in this kind of chaos.
He is the grand poobah of football now.
Yeah.
There's no question
Jason,
about
you're
that.
winning me over with that one. Because I mean, when I think about the rest of the season, like I said, I didn't think they were going to start off winning 6 in a row in the first place, as I said. But I didn't think they were going to win the division. I've already told you that. I think the Giants are going to win the division. Right. But this right here, the totality of the season, you're right, this early point can set a tone that could ruin it.
And the Eagles should be better. The Redskins should be better. Like, it's a good division. They play, look at their road schedule. They still have to go to at Oakland late in the season, who's a playoff team. Like, they have a tough schedule and a tough division, and they're dysfunctional. And with a second-year quarterback that I think the expectations are raised even above his level based upon the fact that he surprised us all last year, I don't think this is going to be a good season.
You don't surprise. You surprised us early. In the second half of the season, when you're still that good, that's not, hey, man, he's still sneaking up on people. You got 4 games.
Distracted.
You got 4 games of game tape.
So
how
many games do you think they win?
We got to go. We got to go. All right. 7. Go ahead and give your prediction.
No, I think that. I think that division is so tough. I think they win 9 games and are right there at the end of it.
9 games. That's a big drop-off. All right, welcome back to the show. Gottlieb, Schlereth, and Eric Davis are back. Let's return to Dallas, where Ezekiel Elliott has been suspended for 6 games for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy over an allegation stemming from an incident back in 2016. The decision by Roger Goodell marks the 2nd straight year that the commissioner has started the season by suspending one of the league's biggest stars. After last year's Deflategate suspension of Tom Brady, reportedly, Jerry Jones is furious about the decision, just like Robert Kraft was last year. Guys, I think the clock is ticking on Roger Goodell. You make enemies of Robert Kraft and Jerry Jones. It's going to be hard, I think, to maintain that job and that position. I happen to think Roger Goodell is criticized too much as it relates to CTE. And then I think even here in this instance of domestic violence, it's very hard to punish and judge and oversee an issue this complicated. The rest of society struggles with it, let alone the commissioner of the NFL. But I blame Roger Goodell for ever even taking this on. Again, there's a reason why we have a president and an attorney general. There have been like 80-some-odd attorney generals because they get fired and replaced. There's been 45 presidents, I believe. We're on our 45th. And so you can't mix politics with criminal justice. It will get you fired. Roger Goodell should have delegated this to a group of people and kept some distance for himself.
Well, it may get him fired, but I like the fact that he's doing the job the way he's doing it. Because you just talked about Robert Kraft. Last year, he went at Robert Kraft, okay? This year, Jerry Jones. Probably the 2 most powerful owners in the league, right? If you come at the king, you best not miss. So he's using guys knowing that could possibly get him fired, but he's still doing the job. So if you are any other owner, if you're any other fan base, you should know that this guy is going to try to police the league in the way it's supposed to be policed. Now, that may be dangerous for his own head, but he's doing the job that he's been given the power to do at the level he's supposed to be doing it, and it doesn't matter who you are. And I like the fact that he's willing to put himself out there like that.
Famous Rodney Dangerfield. Remember late Rodney Dangerfield? He used to have all those one-liners, right?
Yeah.
And the other day, my wife told me to take out the garbage. I told her, you cooked it, you take it out, right? I mean, that's kind of what this is, though, right? Like, if you're going to make $44 million, and we always say, like, what does he make all that money for? You got to make these hard decisions. You got to hire and fire people. I disagree. Since 1968, since the first CBA, this has been the commissioner's duty. You get all the glory, but you also sometimes got to take out the trash.
Pete Rozelle he was letting the criminal court handle this.
Look, do I think it's wrong for the NFL to ever get involved? Yes. Like, I don't think colleges should get involved in Title IX in terms of the conduct of their student athletes. That should be in the criminal justice system. It should be with the local law enforcement. But this is what we have decided that leagues must do. And what's crazy about this thing is Charlotte Jones Anderson, who's the daughter of Jerry Jones, when they enacted the policy of a 6-game suspension for domestic violence, she spoke in support of the policy. So he's mad because it's happening to his team.
Yes, exactly.
That's what he's mad about.
I would say the same guys that are paying him that $40 to $44 million a year, those are the guys that hired him, right? He's doing the job that they asked him to do.
Yes.
And it's very much like a head coach that wants to be the general manager. I mean, it's a tough situation because ultimately you got to play good cop, bad cop, and you're just playing bad cop, bad cop. I'm the coach and I'm the general manager. I'm going to decide what you make, and I'm also going to decide who gets to play on my team. It's an untenable situation, and that's what he finds himself in. But
I don't think so. But listen, Jason, you made a point. He gets too much blame. But
Yeah.
think about what he's done as commissioner, okay? Most of these shows spend time killing him. Nobody mentions 3 teams have moved here, or the Raiders are going to move. That's over $2 billion in revenue. Okay, the Thursday night package. First they gave it to CBS, then they split it up. Even more revenue. Now they're playing in Mexico, playing overseas, more revenue. Didn't add more games. Okay, they have labor peace. And yeah, every once in a while he's got to take the heat because of a public relations disaster.
Every once in a while?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, that's
constant.
But that's the job. But the big thing is he's lining their pockets with money. That's his job, and he's doing it quite well.
go ahead.
No, I'm saying, and also in the process of lining their pockets with the money, he is also making certain that things are done. Because you think about what's happening with the Patriots last year and what's happening right now with Ezekiel Elliott. Think about the people he has to answer to. Do you think he's not getting as much information as he possibly can before he comes down with the decision? Because it is his head. That's why I like it even more when he has to put himself out there when he makes these rules.
And do you think Jerry's as mad as privately as he is publicly?
Yeah, I do, because Jerry thinks, he's running out of time to win another Super Bowl without Jimmy Johnson getting the credit. But I'll say this. When you sign up to be judge, jury, and executioner, it can only inevitably lead to you being the most hated guy in your league.
They pay him to be hated.
No, fine.
They pay him a lot to be hated.
Eventually, it gets in the way of business because when the players sit down to negotiate, all they can see is their hate for Roger Goodell. Things become personal. Oh, I think it's
true.
very personal.
Look, the players complaining about, and look, I know you're 2 former players, and I know that you have problems with the collective bargaining agreement, but like, if they really had a problem with him being judge, jury, and executioner, then make that part of why you don't sign the deal. They agreed to the deal. Just like the owners agreed to the 6-game suspension for the domestic.
Well, you know what? But I don't think
the commissioner won't have all this problems.
I don't think that's going to change dramatically, and the reason why is because you have more guys in the league that don't get in trouble, that don't get suspended, that don't have to deal with any of these issues than do. Because that's the thing. The people that hate the rulings are the ones that are getting ruled upon. So if when you're not getting in trouble, it's not an issue.
You ran the stop sign.
I happen to think that the owners absolutely love him taking all the slings and arrows. I think they love it. And I think that there's no way they're negotiating that power out of the collective bargaining agreement. That Article 46 is important to them. And guess what? They have all the money. And they know that most players, when it comes to July, why do you think they rolled over in July the last collective bargaining agreement?
They need the next check.
They need their next check. They're 3 paychecks away from financial disaster, a bunch of players in this league. And they know they need the next check. The owners know that. They're not going to roll over. They're not going to concede on those things. There's a couple of things they just won't give up on. That's who they are. And that's why at July 25th, the last time we rolled over and go, okay, we'll take 4 less padded practices. Yes, we're done. It's like Kramer agreeing to coffee. That's how we operate.
Jason, where was Roger Goodell last night?
Huh?
Where
he was in New England.
Yeah, where's he going to be the first game of the season?
Probably New England.
Right, they hate him. They hate him so much. You win a Super Bowl, it's like, I had to suspend you, I had to sit you down 4 games. Everybody gets mad, and then you start to realize it's part of the job, it's something you had to do.
All right, welcome back, same crew, Gottlieb, Schlereth, and Davis. Let's move to New England, where last night Jimmy Garoppolo started the clock ticking on Tom Brady's retirement from football and/or Patriots exit. Yep, it's just a preseason game against the lowly Jaguars. But Jimmy G once again looked spectacular. The fourth-year pro completed 22 of 28 passes for 235 yards and 2 TDs. He did it playing with a bunch of New England scrubs. Here's Jimmy G after the game.
With Coach, you never know if you're going to play first quarter, second, whatever it may be. So he always keeps you on your toes with that. But, taking that first hit, getting back out there and getting in the swing of things, it's always nice. So getting in the rhythm kind of felt good.
Jimmy G looked so damn good, Brady had pocket spasms on the sideline. Bottom line, Giselle wants Brady home, and Jimmy G is too good to keep on the bench past this year. This is Brady's last year as New England starter. It's over. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong. Because this is the thing. It has nothing to do with the way any other person plays. Brady being there has nothing to do with Garoppolo. It has everything to do with the way Tom plays. If Tom plays well, if Tom plays at the level that he played last year, if not for the suspension, I think he would have been the MVP in those 12 games. Sure. If he plays at that level again, he's not going anywhere. You're going to take a chance. High. You're going to take a chance. Oh, yeah, you're right, sell high. See, that's another point that I'm going to get to. You're going to take a chance that Garoppolo can possibly do what you know Tom will be doing. If he plays at that level, he's not going anywhere.
Green Bay did it with Aaron Rodgers.
They certainly did. Listen, I look at this, and I've been saying this for several months now. I think Tom Brady finishes his career in a different color uniform.
San Francisco.
Denver.
Denver. And I think this way. You look at the New England Patriots, right? And they are the model franchise. And what have they always done come draft time? Accumulate draft picks, right? They've always done that. They've always had hoarded draft picks. And it's like Rowdy Roddy Piper. Just when you think you know the answers, we change the questions. What did they do this year? They took all those draft picks, traded them away, and got out Brandon Cooks. And they went out and got Dwayne Allen. They got Ely from the Carolina Panthers. They went out and loaded up. I happen to feel, I think you're onto something here, man. I think they're going to move in a different direction. Maybe it's Belichick that says, let's load up. I mean, come on. The Buffalo Bills today traded a bunch of players, right? They've conceded the division. The Jets conceded it before the draft even started. The Jets was like, hey, hasta la vista, we're not playing this year.
Tannehill got hurt.
Right. Tannehill gets hurt in Miami. I mean, the division is theirs. So I just don't know that maybe Belichick is like, hey, man, let's go out with one last hurrah, and then whatever happens, happens. Maybe it's this year, maybe it's next year. But I think Brady finishes in a different uniform. I think you're onto something.
How'd Blaine Gabbert look against the Cowboys? Pretty amazing, right? Like, can we just please?
You just compared Jimmy G.
I did.
Jimmy G played well in the regular season last year. Remember?
How many games?
Game and a half.
Yes, game and a half. Like Tim Tebow had more than a game and a half.
Oh, don't compare him to Tebow.
I'm just we need to breathe on the preseason. We need to take a deep breath on the preseason because you name the Johnny Manziel was good in the preseason as a rookie.
Was he?
Yes,
really?
He's a game and a half more of being good than Blaine Gabbert ever had. I called a Blaine Gabbert game last year, and I questioned whether he was right-handed. I was like, I don't know if this guy is really right-handed.
So, look, first thing is, the preseason, let's take a breath. The second thing is, you're right, though. Like, New England, they always send you one play, you play 1 year, and then you're done. Right? I mean, that's really kind of the thing with older players. Richard Seymour, 1 year, then he's done. And you kind of look down the laundry list of older players. Vince Wilfork, 1 year in Houston, then he's done. I think there's some reality to it, but I would also agree with Eric there in that, like, I kind of think it's a 2-year window. All the additions they made, you got 2 years to try and win another championship, and if he wins another championship, he retires or walks out the door and goes somewhere else.
No, he's not. If he plays at that level and he wins another championship, he's going to try to come back and do it again.
His wife says she doesn't want him to.
If he plays, she probably said that the year before, and she probably said it after this one. And the other thing that everyone keeps
free agency's approaching for Jimmy G.
Oh, you're right. You're right, and that's because free agency is approaching. Haven't we seen Belichick trade other guys that have high value? That's what you said, trade high? Okay, guess what? You trade high because Garoppolo.
You don't trade young.
You don't trade the young, you trade the older dude.
Hold on. You're not going to trade Tom Brady if Tom Brady is playing at that level. And what if what happens if Jacoby Brissett can actually play? Because remember, wait, hold
I
on.
don't have to go there.
Hold on.
I already know Garoppolo can play. I've seen it before with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre.
Listen,
we know what happens to 40-year-olds.
We're talking backups. We're talking right now backup. I'm saying if Tom Brady, because you're saying this is his last year.
Yeah.
If he plays at this level and Garoppolo can move out and you have another guy that can back up Tom Brady for another year, I think they make that move and try to win another one.
The chances of that are like the chance of me coming in tomorrow at 150 pounds.
The chance
ain't happening. 3 quarterbacks on one roster. You can't. It's hard to find 3 quarterbacks across the league. 3 quarterbacks on one roster that can play. Not happening. Jimmy G has proven he can play. Next year will be his 5th year.
Jimmy G hasn't proven he can play like Tom Brady. He hasn't proven he can play like Tom Brady.
Here's a better question. Right. What the hell are half the teams doing in this league that they're not offering the moon, the stars, and the sun for Jimmy Garoppolo? Like Cleveland, like what are you doing? The Jets, the Dolphins.
Because it's Bill Belichick. It's Bill Belichick, and you just said most of the time when a guy leaves, he has one good year and then he's done.
I understand, but
most of the guys, coaches included, that leave that organization don't ever play.
That's right.
They lose their power when they leave there. It's crazy. Quarterbacks, especially Brian Hoyer, Matt Castle, Ryan Mallett. They leave there and people expect. But we've seen enough from Garoppolo where I think we'd all agree, like, he's got enough to be a solid starting quarterback. How can somebody not pick up the phone and go, get me that guy?
I'm telling you, there's a succession plan there, and you're on to something.
Look.
Garoppolo, McDaniels taking over for...
So you're saying like a Steve Young type deal where, while that's still a championship caliber team, you end up jettisoning
Steve Young, he finished in Kansas City.
Next year in Denver. Next year in Denver, I can guarantee it'll either be Tom Brady under center or Jimmy Garoppolo under center in Denver. Denver won't put up with these.
So you're saying what I'm saying, that Garoppolo will be the guy because Tom Brady's going to play.
Either Brady or Garoppolo. Brady is my likely choice. He's going to be done in New England. He'll get his 6th Super Bowl, and they'll move on from him because this kid's too young, too good. You got to bet on youth, Eric. One day you'll figure that out. You'll get as old as me, and you'll figure that out. Bet on youth.